I think strawberries are the perfect fruit for slow stitching, that is. They work so well. All you have to do is cut out a vaguely blobby shape that's a bit wider at the top than at the bottom, add a little bit of green stuff, and then do lots of straight stitching for the little seeds. That's it. Hello, it's so lovely to see you here today. I hope you're doing really well, and I hope you've done something nice for yourself recently. So, this project started with a visit to our local miniature train where a friend of mine was hosting a stitchy get together. There was all kinds of inspiration. If you don't know about scrappy balls, look them up. And there were buckets and buckets and buckets of scrap pieces of cloth to share. And this stuff went on and on and on. And oh, look, there's more. It just kept going. And despite my best intentions to not accumulate anything new, this all came home with me. And I'm blaming this squarely on Arty Farty Annie. Here I am making these little squares, and if you watch her channel, you might recognize these squares. And if you don't watch her channel, go watch it. She is the sweetest thing, and she has some very, very fun and creative textile as well as paper-based projects. And this is a ongoing project. I will be at it for quite some time. But I think I have more scraps than I will need for that project. So I'm looking for other things to do with some of them. And I pulled out these petal shape things and I thought, strawberries. Now you may recognize the blue gingham background there that I've used before. So strawberries on a gingham tablecloth. So I started out by cutting a vaguely blobby shape that is wider at the top than at the bottom. And I had this pink embroidery floss sitting on my table, so that's what I'm using to stitch it on. The back of my cloth has a piece of batting because this is indeed part of my Quilt As You Go hexagon series. So I'm going around tacking down my blob there, and oh, I didn't quite get all the way around. I've run out of thread, so that's not a problem because it's going to be a lot more stitching. And now I've chosen a piece off the red velvet. And although these are actually the same color, if you look at them in person, you can see that they're the same color. The way that the satin and the velvet reflect light differently makes them look quite different. Same thing, I'm going around this one and I made it slightly smaller, so I managed to get all the way around with my thread. And now two has become three, basically the same way. And each of these, I'm not using a template or anything because just as actual strawberries are all different from each other, I want my strawberries to be different from each other in size and shape and design. It's really not necessary to use a template to cut out a blob. So this one too, just like the others, even though it's bigger, it's got stitched down. And now I've got this sort of slightly mottled green silk ribbon embroidery thread. I used to do the silk ribbon embroidery. I went through a bit of a phase many, many, many years ago when the stuff was readily available, but now it's quite hard to find. It creates the most beautiful dimensional shapes, and I think it's perfect for the little tuft of leaves at the top of my strawberry. And I'm starting off just doing a basic messy lazy daisy chain stitch here, going in all directions, sticking up and also reaching down into the strawberry there. And those make really great looking, very dimensional leaves with the silk ribbon embroidery material. The thing about this silk ribbon embroidery is you need a really large-eyed needle, and you cut the end into at an angle. You can also use polyester thread for this. It's not quite as nice, but you can definitely use it. So now I'm going to do a stitch that you can only do with this wide ribbon. So it's like a running stitch. So you come up on the top of your fabric, and then instead of going into the background fabric, you actually stitch into the ribbon, right into the ribbon. Here, I'll show you again close up there. And then you pull through, and it makes a really beautiful little leaf-like shape. It's quite lovely. And then if you don't have the silk ribbon embroidery, you can definitely use any embroidery thread. Now I'm switching over to this variegated yellow thread to stitch on the little seeds that you see on the outside of a strawberry. This is sheer slow stitching. It's just straight stitches, tiny little straight stitches, because the seeds are really small, and I'm actually doing a back stitch rather than just a straight running stitch, mainly because it's easier for me to make my stitches tiny when I do a back stitch rather than a running stitch. I don't know why, it just is. And I'm doing these stitches roughly in a straight line from the top where the little tuft of leaves are to the bottom, but not in an exactly a straight line because that would look really stiff and flat. I'm slightly curving the line to follow the edges, the curved edge of the strawberry, and it will, the lines will get straighter as I get towards the middle, and then they'll start to curve out in the other direction on the other side. I'm not really going for realism, but I want it to look really organic and not stiff at all. So I know that for lots of people, slow stitching is mainly about running stitch and just doing straight stitches. And this is absolutely perfect for that, but it also creates something really beautiful. And here you'll notice as I move the cloth around, the colors off the strawberries, depending on whether they were satin or velvet, they really change colors. And now I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the sweet little event that I went to that my friend had organized. And there was all sorts of arty inspiration there. One person had brought her collection of miniatures that she makes. And oh my goodness, I love miniatures. I have to keep reminding myself that I do not want to make miniatures, but I sure do love looking at them. Aren't these the sweetest things? They are so they're so delightful, and I'm thinking maybe I should start stitching miniatures. Here I'm still working away at my stitching. I'm almost finished with my first strawberry here. I was really happy with the way this turned out. It looks very strawberry-like, I have to say. And now look, the strawberries have multiplied again, and they've all got their little seeds stitched on, and I think they look quite marvelous. I'm pretty pleased with this whole project. But then a thought popped into my head: strawberry mojitos, and I decided to add some little mint leaves to the mix. There was some spaces left, and as a maximalist, I don't like to leave spaces undecorated, but I didn't want to add any more strawberries, so these little green leaves were the perfect addition in my opinion. And they don't look like realistic mint leaves, but that does not matter. And I invented a new way, well, new to me way, of creating the veins on the leaves. I'm using a series of fly stitches that branch out from a central vein, and I really like the way that they look. And I found myself thinking, I don't think I've actually ever had a mojito. And then the same day, I went to a birthday party, and the host served these pomegranate blueberry mojitos. What a coincidence. They were delicious. And here is the finished piece. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think those strawberries look quite marvelous. Once again, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and that I will see you again really soon. Have a great day and bye for now.